Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place where we really plunge into complex issues, try and pull out those critical insights, the surprising details you need to be, well, truly informed. Today, we're diving into something that feels almost like a political thriller, really. A high-stakes geopolitical drama unfolding right now in Southeast Asia.
That's right. Our focus for this deep dive is, well, it's a rare chance to get an unvarnished look at recent diplomatic back and forth between Cambodia and Thailand. We're going to be dissecting, really picking apart, a powerful and incredibly detailed speech given by a senior Cambodian leader, and our sources. They're the actual audio recordings of this address, so it's unfiltered.
Yeah, an unfiltered window. And our mission for you listening in is to unpack all the layers here, the accusations, the startling revelations, the strategic moves packed into this one speech. We want to help you understand the complex dynamics, the surprising facts that came out, and maybe the underlying calls for a different way for these countries to relate to each other. So let's get into it.
Okay, so starting point. This whole business around online gambling and, cross-border connections, the initial spark, the friction, it came from an announcement. A Thai official, often called the Madam, said on June 24th that Thailand was closing its border to fight these gambling operations.
Okay, sounds simple enough on the surface. But what did the Cambodian leader make of that? Did he agree on the timing or the story?
Oh, not at all. He pushed back, and hard. Said the border had actually been closed since June 7th already. He basically called the Thai announcement misleading, strategically timed, like why announce it so much later if it was urgent? His view. Cambodia was just a victim of Thai online gambling.
Wow, okay, victim. That's a strong counterclaim. So why did he think Thailand was the real hub, not Cambodia? What was his reasoning?
Yeah, he laid it out pretty clearly. His argument was that Thailand's uniquely positioned geographically and infrastructure-wise as the region's center for this stuff. Because unlike Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand's the only one with major direct international flights. That's the entry point, he argued, for the people running these rings.
Okay. And it wasn't just about who flies in, right? Did he mention other things?
Yeah.
Dependencies that tied it back to Thailand?
Exactly. He got specific. Said the gambling operations, even the ones in Laos and Cambodia, are critically dependent on internet and electricity coming from Thailand. So his point was, if the internet and the power lines run from Thailand, well, it sort of challenges the idea that Cambodia is the main source of the problem, doesn't it?
Right. So given that dependency, what was his solution? Did he think Thailand acting alone was the answer?
No, far from it. This led him to call really strongly for genuine cooperation, multilateral. He specifically mentioned bringing in China, even the U.S. He basically said, look, unilateral actions just don't cut it. They aren't enough to really tackle online gambling effectively. You need everyone working together. And he also pointed out Cambodia had already started closing these things down back in 2019.
And didn't he reveal something quite dramatic? About Cambodia acting first on the internet connection before any official demands from Thailand?
He did. Yeah, that was striking. He said Cambodia preemptively cut its internet connection to Thailand, from Kokong province specifically. And this was before any official Thai demands, before their deadline, even before 6 a.m. on the day they made the announcement. It was a very direct, proactive move, almost like, we'll do it ourselves.
Wow, okay. And beyond the internet, he threw down a challenge about electricity too, right? What was the core of that challenge? To the Thai defense minister.
Yes, a very public challenge. He directly dared the Thai defense minister to prove that Cambodia was still buying electricity from Thailand. He even questioned the minister's dignity, if he couldn't back up the claim with evidence. Said Cambodia has enough power, locally cited 50 megawatts in Kokong, and was only using power from Trat in Thailand out of business courtesy, not because they needed it. And he stated flat out, right now we are not using any Thai electricity or internet. A clear message about self-sufficiency, pushing back against, well, what he saw as lies.
It really sounds like his frustration went way beyond just the gambling issue. Did he broaden that call for cooperation to other kinds of crime?
Oh, absolutely. He made a point of saying, look, we need to cooperate on all crime, not just online gambling. He specifically mentioned drugs, human trafficking, money laundering, and then he went further, pointing fingers at Thailand, calling it a significant drug nest. He even referenced reports about instability down in the southern Thai provinces and how Malaysia is building fences to block drugs. So yeah, he definitely broadened the scope, painting a picture of wider shared security issues. So moving from that sort of digital underworld to the economic side of things, the impact of all this tension on trade, on travel, It became obvious pretty fast. The Cambodian leader, he spelled out the changes. Border hours, normally 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., sometimes 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., were suddenly slashed down to just 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And he expressed real frustration with that Thai official, Ojang, the madam, for denying there was a closure. He was like, look at the hours, it's obvious.
Right, the reduced hours speak for themselves.
Yeah.
So what does this actually mean practically for the money flowing between them? Because the trade's pretty big, isn't it?
It's huge, yeah. The official trade volume for 2024, over 6 billion US dollars. But here's the kicker, the imbalance. Thailand exported 5.2 billion to Cambodia. Cambodia only exported 1 billion to Thailand. That's a $4.1 billion trade imbalance, heavily favoring Thailand. And like you said, that's just official. Unofficial trade might be closer to $10 billion. So these restrictions, they hit that flow hard.
Wow, that's a huge imbalance. And it wasn't just about, goods crossing the border. How did it affect people, services?
Well, he brought up medical treatment. Apparently, lots of Cambodians regularly cross into Thailand for hospital care, spending their money there. He questioned whether they'd keep doing that now with these restrictions. So it highlights how these big political moves impact ordinary people's lives, disrupt things they rely on.
Were there other specific actions by Thailand that he flagged as, unfair or unilateral?
Yes, definitely. He mentioned step permits for Cambodians being cut down from 15 days to just 7 days. And also, Thailand apparently banned imports of Cambodian cassava, fruits, vegetables, specifically from the border areas. He pointed out this happened even when Cambodia wasn't harvesting those crops, suggesting it wasn't about supply, it was just arbitrary, seen as clearly uncooperative moves.
Which brings us back to that phrase he kept using, the win-win idea.
Yeah.
How did he tie these specific actions, like the bans and permit changes, back to that?
He argued really forcefully that these kinds of unilateral actions, they just create a lose-lose situation for both sides. Economically, diplomatically, everyone loses out. He just kept coming back to this plea for a fairer approach, something mutually beneficial for the whole region.
Okay, let's pivot a bit to the people involved, specifically the Cambodian migrant workers over in Thailand. The leader described a real shift in Cambodia's attitude towards them. What was the contrast he was drawing?
Yeah, he drew a pretty sharp line. He talked about how in the past he felt Thailand treated these workers almost like hostages, disrespected them, but now he positioned Cambodia as being much stronger, much more ready to stand up for its workers.
And what's backing that up? How did he show Cambodia is actually ready to welcome them back? Is there work for them at home?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He gave specifics. Said Cambodia is ready right now to take workers back, pointing to a big domestic labor shortage, nearly 300,000 jobs needed, particularly in key industries like garment factories, but also agriculture. He mentioned cassava, mango, cashew, coffee plantations needing workers. So it's not just talk. There are actual jobs waiting, apparently.
And beyond just having jobs available, did they put any financial help in place for workers who might come back?
Yes, they did. He talked about financial safety nets from Cambodian banks and finance associations, things like extending deadlines for interest payments or giving people more time to repay loans if they face hardship coming home. It suggests a pretty thought-out strategy to smooth that transition.
So what's the bigger picture here? The strategic angle of Cambodia saying, we're ready to take our workers back. How does that change things for them in Thailand?
Well, the argument the Cambodian leader made was that this whole stance, this readiness, it actually elevated the value of Cambodian workers in Thailand. Basically, by showing Cambodia can take them back, it puts pressure on Thailand to treat them better, gives Cambodia more leverage when advocating for their rights over there. It's a power shift in a way.
Okay, now let's get into some really remarkable claims. The parts where he seemed to have this almost insider view of Thai politics. What did he reveal about a potential cabinet reshuffle in Thailand?
Yeah, this part was pretty stunning. He shared this detailed story about a private dinner at his house. The Thai official, Oeng, the madam, was there with her husband. And according to him, during this dinner, Oeng told him the Pheu Thai party wanted to grab the Interior Ministry. Why? Apparently to approve these recreation centers that the Pheu Thai party was blocking. And she also supposedly suggested moving the health ministry away, giving it to another deputy PM.
Okay, and what was the alleged strategy behind wanting this shuffle?
The way it was presented to the Cambodian leader, apparently, it was as a tactic to basically pressure Thai into leaving the government coalition voluntarily so they wouldn't have to be explicitly fired.
And then he shared that personal rule he has about trust and gossip. What was that again? It seems relevant here.
Yeah, his rule was something like, if someone gossips about others to you, they will gossip about you to others. Which suggests, he heard this information but was maybe a bit skeptical about the source, or at least cautious about getting involved in these kinds of internal political games.
So hearing this, and given his principle,
Yeah.
what did he do? Did he get involved?
Well, this is where it gets even more interesting. He described how he used his aide, a guy named Kleong Hu, who apparently calls Thaksin Shinawatra by the nickname Dukbai, to send Thaksin a message. The message was basically a warning: don't try this reshuffle because, you might get reshuffled yourselves. And the Cambodian leader claimed that when this information leaked out later, Bumjatai decided to withdraw from the government to maintain their dignity rather than be pushed out. It paints a picture of, well, incredible behind-the-scenes connections, or at least his perception of them. Okay, the saga continues. We move into these revelations about the Shinawatra's Thaksin's health, and then Yingluck's pretty dramatic escape. This section is packed with some really surprising claims. The Cambodian leader positions himself as a direct witness regarding Thaksin Shinawatra's health during all those recent legal troubles.
Right, and what exactly did he claim about Thaksin's health? Because that's a pretty big deal, challenging the official story.
He flat out claimed Thaksin was not sick at all. Said he only wore a neck brace for the cameras for photos and then took it right off to eat. So yeah, a direct contradiction to the narrative around Thaksin's health when he returned and was facing legal issues.
And what did he imply this meant, especially regarding the current Thai PM, Oyang, and maybe her doctors?
Well, it led him to directly accuse the current Thai PM, Oyang, and her 3 doctors, who he said were later fired, of a lack of integrity. And then he drew this interesting contrast in political styles. He called his own approach addition politics, keeping allies together. But he accused Thaksin of subtraction politics, abandoning loyal supporters, citing the former health minister, Sutara, as an example. Felt quite personal, a real jab at Thaksin's way of operating.
Okay, and then the escape story. Yingluck Shinawatra leaving Thailand. What did the Cambodian leader say really happened? He seemed keen to correct some rumors.
Yeah, he was very specific. First, he shot down the common rumor that she escaped through Cambodia, said that wasn't true, although it apparently was an option considered. The real path, according to him, she flew out directly from Mae Sot Airport inside Thailand.
But he did confirm Thaksin asked for his help, right? And there was this rendezvous in Cambodia. How did that work?
Yes, he confirmed Thaksin did ask for his help arranging the escape, specifically from inside Thailand. And the rendezvous part was very detailed. A car brought Yingluck to meet a flight arriving from Singapore right as it landed in Siem Reap, Cambodia. She apparently got straight onto that plane, which he described as being like a plane for Dukbai, suggesting, a private jet, something high-end.
So Cambodia didn't let its territory be used against Thailand, as he said, but it clearly played a key role in facilitating her getting away. How did he justify that?
He framed it as acting with virtue, saving someone in distress. He kept repeating that Cambodia didn't allow its land to be used against Thailand, but helping someone flee trouble. That was different. He even brought up history, comparing it to when King Sihanouk took refuge in Cambodia years ago, presented it as a kind of humanitarian act consistent with Cambodian values. Okay, finally, let's talk about the rhetoric of dignity. This really felt like a core theme, maybe even the trigger for the whole fiery speech. The main insult seemed to come from an interview where some Thai official implied to be an aide to the PM called Cambodian leaders unprofessional for using social media for announcements.
Right, calling a leader unprofessional for using Twitter or Facebook. That's a pointed critique these days. How did the Cambodian leader hit back at that?
Oh, he hit back hard, fiercely. He defended using social media, even compared himself to Donald Trump, saying it's just a modern way leaders communicate now, it's legitimate. He called the unprofessional label a serious insult and basically blamed that specific language for the whole diplomatic breakdown. Said that was the root cause of the current tensions. It really highlights this clash, doesn't it, between old school diplomacy and new digital ways.
Yeah, it sounds like it touched a nerve. A defense of his country's honor and his own way of doing things. What was his bottom line on demanding respect?
The core message was defense. Defense of Cambodia's dignity, his own dignity. He said flat out he would not be looked down upon. It was a really clear signal. Cambodia expects to be treated as an equal and won't tolerate perceived disrespect or condescension.
He didn't just talk about respect. He laid down a very specific condition for things to calm down at the border, didn't he? What was that?
Yes, one single, very clear condition for pulling back troops along the border. Thailand has to open its borders first, fully. After Thailand does that, he said, Cambodia will reciprocate. And only then, after both sides have opened up, can discussions actually begin. So a very clear sequence laid out, no talks before borders open.
Interesting. But despite all that strong language, the challenges, the accusations, he seemed to end on a slightly different note. Something about friendship. How did he square that?
Yeah, it's a classic diplomatic move, really. After all the fire, he stressed his desire for continued friendship with the Thai people. Not necessarily the leadership he was criticizing, but the people. Said he believes most Thai want that friendship too. It allows him to be critical of the government's actions while keeping the door open for future goodwill, separating the people from the politics.
So this deep dive, it's really peeled back the layers on this tangled web of claims, counterclaims, these really surprising revelations, all coming out of one single, very powerful speech. It just shows how much you can learn about geopolitics in the region, about personal relationships between leaders, even clashes in political style, just from listening closely to one address.
Exactly. And understanding these kinds of detailed exchanges, it takes you so much further than the average news headline, doesn't it? It gives you, the listener, real insight into what might be motivating these leaders, maybe their longer-term goals. It just helps build a much more complete picture of, well, the complicated world we're in.
Right. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with something to think about, a provocative thought maybe. In this world we live in now, increasingly digital, leaders are communicating directly, often pretty bluntly, through social media, through speeches like this. How does this new era of, let's call it digital diplomacy, how does it actually impact the old ways, traditional statecraft, that delicate balance of international relations? Is it making things more transparent? Or is it just raising the temperature, leading to more tension, something to mull over?